everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm very excited because I'm going to be just chatting with and interviewing my friend Jason here, and we're going to be talking about the intersections of spirituality, crypto, and AI. And before we get started, I just have to say I'm at Jason's place right now and I'm just amazed by all of the messaging he has around. I saw on his fridge he has some Dr. Joe quotes up there, and we're sitting here on the couch and he has this sign here. Jason, what does that sign say?
Change your energy, change your life.
Change your energy, change your life. I love that. And what book do you have here?
Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
He has Dr. Joe Dispenza books up here. He has A Course in Miracles. All this, I just love this positive energy you have in here, surrounding yourself with these books and these messages. I think it's awesome and very relevant to the topic today. And yeah, so I guess let's just get right into it. First, I'll give a little background on Jason, and then we're just gonna start our conversation. So Jason has been trading cryptocurrencies since 2017, and he has also recently began exploring AI. And he believes that cryptocurrencies and AI, both of those are the future. He's currently focused on big investment opportunities at the intersection between cryptocurrencies and AI. Jason has also been on a spiritual journey for over 10 years, and he can see how spirituality, crypto, and AI can all work together to create a better future of peace and prosperity for all of humanity. He currently works as a data analyst at a large public corporation, but he plans to quit his corporate job to focus fully on crypto, AI, and spirituality, which I think is awesome. So really cool background you have. And yeah, let's just start by talking about your spiritual journey. It's clear that you're into this stuff. You're into spirituality. You're into the idea of changing your mindset and changing your perspective. I can tell by the quotes you have, the fact that you have Dr. Joe books around. Can you tell us a bit about your spirituality, your spiritual journey, and how that kind of impacts how you see the world?
Yeah, so I started my spiritual journey probably so I'm 32 right now, so probably 18 years old. That's when I can say I probably started on this spiritual journey, because it's not always clear when exactly you started. But I'd say I started when I started meditating every day. I wasn't into the more esoteric type of spirituality yet, because I was born into a atheist family, and my parents were just not into spirituality at all. So I had to find my own path there, and I remember meditating because I was really depressed, and I was looking into positive psychology, and then one of the things that positive psychology which is science-based, it says that if you want to be happy, you want to meditate every day. That's the number one thing that will impact improving your happiness.
Meditating every day.
Meditating every day, at least 5 minutes a day, because 5 minutes, people can do that. Not everyone can meditate an hour a day, but if you start with 5 minutes and do it every day, you can actually make it a habit, and then you can start increasing that amount to maybe 10, 20 minutes, whatever works, So I saw a profound effect on meditation, mindfulness, in creating self-awareness and also lifting myself out of depression. And then I started going deeper into more esoteric spiritual philosophies. And eventually I came across Dr. Joe Dispenza. He was talking about, the chakras, or actually he calls them energy centers, but they are very closely aligned with the chakra centers of the Indian Hindu philosophy or religion, or spirituality, if you want to call that. So yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza has opened my mind so much to how energy works and how manifestation works and things like that. But since then I've branched out of Dr. Joe's work, and I actually spend a lot more time learning about other types of spiritual thoughts and healing processes. But yeah, that's how it got started. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. And yeah, I love Dr. Joe. I've talked about him a bit on my channel because I think his teachings are just so powerful. And yeah, it's really cool to hear how you kind of took things into your own hands. Like you weren't necessarily raised in an environment where spirituality was just a part of like your family or your life, but you really went out of your way. You were like, I'm feeling this way. You seemed to have this knowing that you could change it, and then you took those steps and meditated, and yeah, that's really powerful. And I'm curious, so with spirituality, to segue into like our next topic, I know you've mentioned before that there seems to be some kind of divide between people who are very spiritual and also, I guess, people who are really into like technology and the future and AI and crypto. Like it seems to be two different mindsets. And I know you've mentioned in the past that you've noticed that people who identify as like spiritual and they seem to sometimes reject AI and crypto and like these technological advancements. Is that true? And like, is that true what you said? And like, how do you see that? Like, why do you think that is, that people who tend to be more spiritual are kind of not as into like the crypto, and they might even be like scared of it?
Yeah, I would say the fear is actually within the general population, not just spiritual people. Like, as we look through history, like every time there's a big spiritual advancement, whether it's like the Industrial Revolution with the assembly line, with like Ford Motor, like creating like cars way faster than ever before. That replaces a lot of like manual labor of putting parts together, and he was able to mass produce cars, Henry Ford, that is, and that created a lot of fear about people losing their jobs and not being able to find jobs, so that people are afraid of like mass layoffs and unemployment, things like that. They thought that was a bad thing. Fast forward to now, like we can see, we still have people employed on a healthy level, and so I mean, it has been a net positive to our society. Although, like, yes, people did lose their jobs, but they found new work, and in order to find new work, you have to be more educated in a certain higher level skills, like computer programming or analytics, or maybe even creative, or like creating YouTube channels or businesses and things like that. Like every time we've had a big technological advance, like we can also talk about the internet. Similar things happen. People are probably afraid that internet would bring about so much change that people would lose their jobs, but people still found jobs after losing their jobs. And then cryptocurrencies, that's another huge advancement that's gonna like change the world entirely, as well as AI. People have a lot of fears about crypto, and probably not in relation to like losing jobs, but the AI narrative has been like that. Like people are afraid that AI is going to replace humans on such a massive scales that people won't be able to find jobs. And I don't know, maybe it is true to a certain extent, because like AI, it can do a lot of things that people can do, and sometimes like a lot of times even exceed way past what a human can do. But I think currently what I'm seeing, and I'm learning so much about AI right now, but what I'm seeing is that a lot of times AI is specialized in one thing and being able to do that thing really, really well. Whereas like humans are actually made to be be more of a generalist rather than a specialist. So we're gonna see a lot of like specialist AI that's gonna take over a lot of different specific jobs and make everything even more efficient and more productive. But I think humans, I don't know what that looks like, but I think humans will be able to adapt to that and be able to acquire skills to then be able to adapt to that environment and actually find work. And this work may involve employing AI to create a company so that people can actually be more independent in their business. Like people are now talking about how billionaires will be created, like a single person billionaire company. Like that has never been done before. Because
wow,
of course, like if we look at every business from past to now, like every $1 billion company has to have like probably over hundreds or thousands of employees. So, but with AI, all of our employees could be, you know, AI or most of them.
Right.
And then so people can be a lot more independent. And I really don't know what the future holds, but like I'm very optimistic about it. And I do see that in the future when there is so much abundance because we're able to produce so much abundance through AI and its efficiency with the right intention. I think there's multiple paths in which technology can be used, and you know, if collectively humanity uses it for a bad intention, of course, you know, we could see a lot of negative things happen. But if we collectively use it for positive, then like we can see so much abundance that, like, I think a lot of wars come from the lack mindset of not having enough or the perception of not having enough. So wars are fought over resources and ideologies that just are not very wholesome. But when we can have enough abundance that we don't fight over these things, we have more time to you know, change our energy, right? To elevate our consciousness, to meditate more, to actually achieve happiness without being attached to external material things and thinking that we have to fulfill these things. Like, yeah, we're no longer in that survival mode. We're like, then we can elevate our consciousness with a lot more time because people don't have to work as much anymore in the future, right? So, and that ties into also cryptocurrency and the nature of decentralization. I think one of the issues that can come up in AI is that AI may become too centralized, meaning that only a few billionaires has control over AI, and that could produce a very negative outcome where like all these billionaires have all the power because they control all the AI and all the wealth like flows to them. Whereas if we can make AI decentralized and be in the hands of, you know, the mass population and everyone gets the benefit from that, then we can see a truly prosperous society, right? And then this requires that people not be afraid of AI, so that like the biggest issue that may happen in the future is that people are so afraid of AI that they won't ever touch it, and so they never learn how to use it. Then they never actually learn the ability to use AI to their advantage. Then they are actually willingly giving power to the billionaires who actually want to control everything. So so the more you can overcome your fear and be optimistic about AI and actually learn how to use it, the better it is for the future of humanity. So yeah.
Interesting. Do you think that's a real concern that like, because yeah, I kind of had this idea that like the beauty of things like AI is that, like you said, it is decentralized, so anyone can use it. Like look at like ChatGPT, for example. But is there a risk of like, how could it happen that only a few people control the AI? Like what would it take to get to that point?
Yeah, so I think,
or is it just like you said, it just comes down to who's using it and taking advantage of it, or who's just saying, oh, I'm scared of it, I don't want to engage with it, and then that gap happens naturally. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like some people will prosper by using it, others will kind of just get left behind without taking advantage of it.
Yeah, this is a complex topic, and I think that I don't think AI naturally is a decentralized thing, but you can either go to the path of like making it more decentralized or on the path of making it more centralized. And I think currently exists both happening on a large scale. I think ChatGPT is more decentralized, at least maybe that was their vision in the past because they made it open sourced. And I'm not an expert on coding or open source and things like that, but what I understand about open source is that you can actually see all the code of the open source software or technology. So in a sense that ChatGPT was open sourced, people can actually see what code contributed to the AI technology of ChatGPT, and also the really experienced users can probably contribute to the code to improve ChatGPT. And also, one feature of open open source is that most open source products are free. I know like ChatGPT is, you gotta pay for the premium.
Right, like the plus version.
Yeah, there is a free version as well.
They do make it tempting to pay for it too.
Yeah.
I ran out the other day. I was like prompting it, and it was like, you ran out of prompts. I was like, what? No, like this never happens. And then I saw I had to pay for it. I was like, oh man, I'm not yet at that point, but I think at some point I'm gonna start paying.
but I think it's because I don't know ChatGPT too well in its history, because I only started using it like several months ago. But
really,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, on a more frequent basis.
Okay.
I dabbled on it a year ago.
Okay.
But what I understand is that recently, Open AI, the organization that created ChatGPT, like they used to be a nonprofit organization, but recently they changed to I think for profit. Maybe there was like a portion of that company that is now for profit, so there's like a mixed profit kind of organization now. So that makes it less decentralized from my perspective. So centralization probably will happen if all the companies are creating, AI within a black box of their company, like not letting anyone see the code of the AI. So making it not open source and maybe even patent the technology behind it, and then so we never know what's actually behind the AI. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's going to be regulations behind how AI is created and making everything more open source. Maybe that is how we can make our future safer with AI. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. Yeah.
Do you think I'm always curious, like, do you think there's, going back to like the spirituality aspect of it all? Because one, I guess, like, fear that I have, because I love like writing and things like that, and my work is very like creative. It's a lot of like writing and communications, that kind of work. And now a lot of people just use ChatGPT to like write content, like, and people are writing books with it and stuff like that. And it's just like, I understand having that fear of like, is this just taking away from like our humanity? Like the fact that you can just prompt it in 2 seconds and then it writes a whole book for you. And obviously it's not going to be perfect, and like we're not there yet where it sounds like a real human and where it's like really like you just hit go and it's done. And I know that writers have their own ways of like dealing with it and prompting it to where it's not writing completely for them, but it is like giving them ideas. Do you think AI, at least, we'll talk about crypto in a minute, but do you think AI is hindering almost like spirituality in a way? Because it's, you could argue that it's kind of taking that humanity away from us, if it is. Like, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think, yeah, the current technology isn't powerful enough to actually mimic what a human would do, in the sense that, like, I think when I haven't really seen any book personally being created by AI, so I don't know what it reads like, but my personal experience with like AI is that it's not perfect, and if it does write a book, it's probably not going to sound human, like you said. So it's going to need some human input, editing of actually directing it to the right place. And if I were to write a book, and I might use AI, especially if it's like nonfiction or fiction for that matter. But I'm also gonna put a lot of my mental effort into adding my ideas into what I want it to be. And I don't know how much a purely AI written book is actually gonna sell. I don't know how much it will actually resonate with readers or anything like that. So currently I don't see that as hindering human creativity. Like, in some ways it can even help enhance it because you're making things more efficient. Right. And some things that maybe AI won't really replace in the near future is like telling personal stories. Like, unless if I feed an AI like my entire life story and create something out of it, I guess I could do that.
It's collecting it over time.
So then I can even write up like an entire essay of my life story and feed it to the AI and say, hey, create a story from it. But I don't think it's gonna be exactly what I would want it to be. So I would still have to put my ideas into it and like mold it into something that resonates with me. So I think our human input will always be relevant. I don't think an AI can ever replace it completely,
Right.
but it can help speed up the process, perhaps. So
Yeah.
that's more efficiency, more time.
Yeah, I agree. I think things are really just gonna, like, it's not necessarily gonna replace everything. Maybe one day in the future it will, but if anything, it's just kind of like supporting us to do what we actually want to do. And that's kind of my hope for it. That like for example, I'm writing right now, and it helps me with like outlines, like helping me to get my thoughts organized and to outline it, but then I do the actual writing, and that's time that I would have been spending outlining it that I can now put towards the writing. So I do kind of see how you can use it in that way, and it's not if anything, it's just helping.
Yeah, and I think I can see how AI is like helping me in this area, or potentially helping me in this area in the future, because in the past I've wanted to write books or create a YouTube channel with like video content, and I've just never found the time because I have such a busy schedule, like working full-time job, and the job is like sometimes can take 80 hours a week.
Jeez.
And I'm also trading crypto and researching AI constantly. So like, when would I have time to create videos? And like, one idea I thought of is like, hey, I can actually use AI to create some of the content and then edit the content to fit exactly what I want it to be. So there's going to be my input, but 90% is going to be basically outsourced in AI.
Right.
And that would actually save me so much time that it may be possible for me to create a YouTube channel and maybe have that become successful, and then actually work on it full time and be able to quit my job, eventually. So that's a huge leverage I can use. And by like rejecting it completely, if I did that, then I would not have the possibility to have that efficient path forward. Like, it might take me a lot longer to actually achieve financial freedom or independence if I don't use that. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, like, I think you might have said the phrase like researching crypto like every day, or like spending time every day on that. Can you talk, just to shift a little bit more into crypto now? Can you talk a little bit about like how did you get into crypto? And I think you said has it been 7 years now?
Yeah, more than 8 years, I think.
More than 8 years. So yeah, that's a long time. And how did you get into it, and why did you, I guess, what interested you about it, and why have you been, I'm assuming that over time you got more and more into it, and now you're kind of like, wow, you said this is the future. Can you talk a little bit about your experience, your story there with crypto?
Yeah, I think my interest in crypto, came in 2017. Like, I grew up in a really difficult environment growing up. Like, I'm a first generation immigrant, or my parents, and I had to see my parents like struggle financially, and they had minimum wage jobs because they didn't have any college education, and they didn't speak English at all. So they just worked in a restaurant and got minimum wage, and we just lived in poverty for like many years. And that was one of the things that really inspired me to want to like learn how to make money, and which is why I actually studied economics in college, so I can understand money better. Which I realized in hindsight, college didn't actually teach me what money actually is. But it did give me some kind of foundation to think about money and economy in a helpful way, somewhat. But my real education came when I started listening to YouTube videos of people talking about what is actually happening in the economy. And a lot of what's happening in the economy is that the governments are really manipulating the money in a way that is not benefiting the common people. And maybe I shouldn't even say the government, because like when I talk about like entities controlling the currency, in the US it's like Federal Reserve, and it's not even considered a government
Right.
organization. It's like, I don't know who even owns that, probably some billionaires that we never heard of, trillionaires, collective, Rothschilds, or like Rockefeller type people, or controlling the U.S. dollar and probably other currencies in the world, and they're able to inflate that currency at their will, like whenever they want, and that inflation is actually diminishing the purchase power of people so much that the common people are struggling to save enough money to buy a house or other big purchases, and people have to pay, like, get paycheck to paycheck, like live paycheck to paycheck, and people just struggling financially as the years go by, and that's why we see so much disparity within the wealthy and the poor. Mm-hmm. Like the income gap is just like constantly increasing, and I realized the solution, and I learned it from just listening to YouTube videos and also applying my critical thinking, is that like one of the key to solving these issues is having a currency that is backed by something of real value. In the past, like, we think of gold as that thing that we can back our currency to have a real value to fight the inflation and the corruption within the currency. But what we realize is that, like, gold just isn't actually the best solution. When Bitcoin, especially when that came along, we realized, like, Bitcoin had the property of gold, except it's even better because we can now send it to places within minutes and at very low cost, and it's not heavy. We don't have to have huge storage fees, with Bitcoin. And also, Bitcoin is like limited supply, so that 21 million Bitcoin can only ever be created. No one can change that. And it's decentralized, so the network is secured by, I don't know how many computers that is, but probably hundreds of thousands, I guess, of computers that are securing the network. So I don't want to get too technical about Bitcoin, and I'm probably not even qualified to talk really detailed into like Bitcoin and how it works. But the idea is that it's decentralized, and it's a way better currency to use than the U.S. dollar or any other fiat currency ever existed. So this is what will actually bring about prosperity to the common people if we can achieve mass adoption with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like inspiring too to see all this momentum behind crypto right now, because I think in a way it gives people hope. Like, it gives them hope for the future, that they are able to build wealth, because I think a lot of people right now are really down and discouraged that every year they see their dollars losing value, where they have to put more and more hours into work. Their money's losing value. They have to work harder to save, and the money that is just sitting there, if they are able to save any, is literally losing value over time. So I've seen, anyone I know who's really into crypto. I personally am not super into it. I do have some Bitcoin thanks to my brother, like, sharing a lot of this knowledge with me. But I would like to be more into it and understand it at a deeper level. But I do see that everyone I've spoken to who is really into it, it's like a source of hope. They see how it's working, and like you said, it's decentralized, so people have true ownership over it, and it can't be just manipulated by the powers that be. So how do you see this unfolding in the future? Like, how do you see the future of crypto, and where do you see it all going or leading to? Like you said, this is the future. What does that look like? Do you think the dollar will always exist? Do you think everyone's gonna be able to own some, like, crypto at some point? Like, how do you see the future with crypto?
So I think that in the near future, with the incoming administration in the US, like, it's a lot more crypto friendly, and there's even talks about the possibility of creating like a Bitcoin reserve. That's going to be like super bullish for Bitcoin if that gets approved.
You said super bullish?
Yeah, super bullish, yeah. I believe. Yeah, if that gets approved, because like then the U.S. government will have to start accumulating Bitcoin and have a reserve. So that's going to create a much bigger demand. And yeah, the future, I think, possibly, if there is a Bitcoin reserve, I suppose that they could actually start backing the US dollar with Bitcoin. And that may take a long time because Bitcoin needs to mature to a point where the price is a lot more stable. Right now, it's like, going up, multiple X, like maybe 5X or so in a short amount of time, and it can crash like 20-30%, even more, maybe potentially 80% in a bear market in a year. And that kind of volatility is probably not good for a currency that we use to purchase everyday things. But we could achieve the stability that we're looking for, maybe 10 years or 20 years in the future. And part of getting there could be accumulating Bitcoin reserve within the government, whether it's in the U.S. and probably in maybe Russia or China. Like if all three of them, these superpowers start accumulating Bitcoin reserve, every other country will probably start following that, and then entire government, all the governments in the world could have this like Bitcoin reserve. Bitcoin would probably go to millions of dollars by that point, and then the price would probably be a lot more stable. Governments could theoretically start backing their currency with Bitcoin, just like how they backed their currency with gold in the past. And that could create a system where we're still using the US dollar or other currencies of various nations. But then these currencies actually have the property of Bitcoin of being deflationary, and people don't actually have to own Bitcoin per se. They can just own the currency of their nation. But I still would recommend in that case, if that future comes true, people should still own their own Bitcoin, because what if the government, for whatever reason, decides to take their currency off of Bitcoin backing, and you're left with nothing? I don't think that's likely, because if they do that, then they're going to fall behind other nations who don't do that. So I think, yeah, there's probably going to be a race to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible for every nation, every corporation at some point in the future. So that's what I see.
Did you say Bitcoin specifically?
Currently, only Bitcoin has that kind of property, but potentially in the future, Ethereum could be also a very coveted asset within, especially large corporations who want to invest in a technology like Ethereum. There's even Ethereum ETF being approved. So I do think that, yeah, maybe nations can start accumulating other cryptos, but in the near future, I only see Bitcoin having that kind of confidence that governments have. But Ethereum potentially could in the near future as well. And I don't know, maybe even XRP, because people are talking about XRP being used as a cross-border payment system between nations, so yeah.
Cool. And what would you like for anyone out there who might be watching this and thinking like, for anyone who might not be familiar at all with like crypto, and they're just kind of like, that is so risky, that's not real money, like all these arguments I hear people say, like it's not real money, it's just a risk, it's all gonna go, it's so volatile, it's just gonna like disappear, you're gonna lose all your money, it's unstable, you might as well just take your money and invest it in the stock market or put it in a savings account, you're much safer doing that. What would you say to people who have that mindset, which I think is a really popular mindset that people have who are not really familiar with crypto?
Yeah, I think to have skepticism or a healthy level of skepticism is very valuable. To be able to be aware of risks in the market, that's very valuable. You should never completely eliminate that. But I think people tend to be too skeptical of new technology, and therefore they miss out on it. So like, in the dot-com bubble era, a lot of people were skeptical about, internet, and there was a lot of risk into that. Like if people bought into the .com stocks at its peak, then a lot of them actually went to zero. A lot of them crashed. 90% people sold at the bottom, whatever it is. Yeah, there's definitely risks in assets that go up really fast, right? So people who invest and trade crypto should always keep that in mind. This is very volatile. This is not something that you should just throw caution to the wind and put all your life savings in, because this is something that needs more time to develop. However, this is still in the early stage of development, and the earlier you can get into a technology that's going to become the future, the more potential for upside that you're actually exposing yourself to. So if you invest in Amazon, for example, in the 2000s, I think it crashed, 90% at some point in the early 2000s because of the .com bubble burst. But Amazon actually, came back up and, probably, I don't know, increased 100 times or whatever big, huge number that is. And people who invested a lot of money and, kept investing in Amazon without selling it like at the lower prices, they're probably millionaires right now. So this is the upside of investing early into a technology that is self-developing. And that when you get into technology that early, of course, you're also exposed to the potential downside, and that could be 90%, or even some cryptos might go to zero at some point because they might not hold up in the bear market. But Bitcoin specifically has gone through more bull and bear cycles than any other currencies. That is the earliest viable cryptocurrency. And yeah, every 4 years there's like a big, huge boom and then bust. But every time it crashed and went back up, the lows are like much higher than the previous low, and the highs are much higher than the previous high. So basically, you're like trending up. Even if your investment went down 90%, then it might go up like 20 times, 30 times in the future. And then the longer you have your money in crypto, or Bitcoin specifically in this case, the more it will just continue to go up in the long term, right?
Hodl.
Yeah, hodl.
Hodl.
Say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on. You touched on it a bit in the beginning, but because I know you primarily through all of your spiritual work and everything like that. How would you say the three things can be brought together? The three things we touched on: spirituality, AI, and crypto. You mentioned the intersections of all of that. How does spirituality play a role in that, and how do they play a role in spirituality? Where do you see that intersection between the three?
Yeah, I think in general the way I look at everything in the world and in the universe is everything is somehow related to spirituality. So I keep that in mind always when I do everything. But to make it more clear for the audience and people who might have questions about that, so I do think that within my spiritual perspective, I do believe that the universe is benevolent. I believe that what you would call God, the infinite creator of this universal multiverse, if you want to call it, I don't see that through the religious perspective. I see it through just a very unifying spiritual perspective. Of course, God or infinite creator, we can't fully comprehend what it is. But I do believe that the intention of the infinite creator is positive for humanity. And part of what I'm seeing within the esoteric spiritual philosophies especially, there's many converging prophecies within many spiritual traditions that talk about this prophecy of humanity awakening. And the human awakening, what that is that we may actually be heading to a golden age of humanity where peace and prosperity is possible for all of humanity. And people might look at our history and say, how can that even be possible? People understandably have a lot of pessimism around being optimistic in the future, and that's understandable. But what people don't understand is that you can't really look at history to predict the future, because the future may be just so different from what you witnessed in the past that like you just won't you just can't use the past to predict the future, right? And most people they underestimate the progress that can happen in the future, especially how people look at technology. Like when people, like as I spoke about exponentially growing technology, people didn't realize how the assembly line or electricity, how the internet, so on and so forth, how that would change their life so drastically. That it would create like abundance and just like completely change the life of everyone, and they underestimate that. And what people also miss about what's currently happening in the world is that people might look at the wars that are going on right now, and they're like, oh, like there's so much war going on, like humanity isn't getting better. But the truth is, actually, if you compare to the current modern era of how many wars are actually happening, like it's actually a lot less than in the past. Like I guess like the technology of like the weaponry has improved to a point where mass destruction is possible. I haven't looked too much into that, but like for the most part, like we live in a more peaceful time, especially on the streets. Like we feel a lot safer than 200, 500 years ago when I don't know, like there's a lot more scarcity, right? So the more abundance there is, the more peaceful people tend to become, right? So people don't realize like the amount of abundance that AI is about to unleash, or cryptocurrency is about to unleash, especially through the centralization, how that makes it so much more possible that humanity in a much shorter amount of time than people can would predict for world peace to be possible, for prosperity for all humanity is possible. So like I can see how those technologies are creating conditions for which the awakening of humanity is possible on a collective level in the near future. So does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And even on like a very practical level, we can see how just like how people's work lives have shifted a lot thanks to like, I guess just thanks to technology. Like the fact that people can work remotely, people love that because then they feel they have greater work-life balance. And I think we have technology to thank for a lot of our prosperity and our just feeling like we have a better quality of life than we did, like you said, like 100 years ago, 100 plus years ago. I guess let's say for anyone who is not familiar at all with crypto, what practical advice would you give them to start getting more into it? To get more specific, I'll say crypto specifically so that it's more simple.
Yeah. So, for people who want to learn more about cryptos, I think a good place to start like researching is like using ChatGPT actually. So like if you have a coin or like just crypto, like if you want to learn more about the technology behind Bitcoin and how's like decentralized, you can actually ask like, hey ChatGPT, like what is
I love it. Ask the AI to tell you about crypto.
yeah. It's like it helps you like aggregate so much data that instead of like searching for like 10 different articles and trying to figure out which article is actually the best one, then like it takes a long time to actually do your research. But if you can go to one place, ChatGPT, and then just ask a relevant question about like crypto, Bitcoin, whatever it is, then you can learn about the technology behind it and also how to get started with investing in crypto. I guess like after you do your research and understand more about cryptos, so one popular exchange that people in the US especially use to get started crypto is a Coinbase. So that's a good place to start, right? And I would say just really focus on investing in Bitcoin at first. And this is not investment advice, because like it's up to you, like how, when and how much you want to buy of Bitcoin. Because I'm not allowed to give financial advice to people just like randomly, but this is just like a suggestion. But
so you would say Bitcoin is I mean, I know it's not like financial advice, but like, because these are questions I had. Like, is Bitcoin kind of the one you would say start with if you're a beginner to crypto?
yeah, definitely. Because like Bitcoin is considered the most safe cryptocurrency. It's got the most history of like going up, and then like as I said, like it's on this like uptrend for the past um, 10 years or so, since like 2008 or 9, whenever it was created. And it's got the most institutions backing it, like basically buying and accumulating Bitcoin because they see the technology within it to be true. So like there's also lots of scams in crypto because crypto is such an unregulated asset. It's not like a stock market where like all the stocks that are listed on the stock market has to be screened by SEC, like certain government regulation organization that makes sure that you have actually a legit company creating legit business, right? Whereas cryptocurrency, anyone can create a cryptocurrency, and people have created scams that then it's called like rugging. So create a cryptocurrency. A lot of people think that it's a legit crypto, so they buy a lot of it, and then the creator pulls away all the money. They sell all the token. I don't even know how it works, but they just somehow take all the value away so that they can keep it for themselves, and everyone else is like left with nothing. So there are scams out there if you're not careful. So like it's only after having a lot of time researching crypto and learning how to trade it over, it took me several years to actually learn how to actually figure out which crypto is legit and which cryptos are scams. So like to avoid getting scammed, like you probably want to just stick with the most trusted crypto, which is Bitcoin. And I think at this point, like Ethereum can also fit into that category of being a trusted crypto. So potentially people can branch out into looking at Ethereum if they feel comfortable with Bitcoin and want to branch out to something else. So
okay,
yeah.
Cool. And yeah, like I said, I think crypto like gives people a lot of hope, and I think that's something that's really important. Can you just touch on, we're going to wrap up in a minute, but can you just touch on like what kind of, for anyone out there who's just might be just struggling with money and maybe they're completely not in the world of crypto, and we don't even need to talk about crypto if you don't want to, but for anyone who's just struggling financially, what would you recommend or suggest for what kind of like mindset, or what can they do to kind of get, I'm specifically like kind of speaking to mindset, but what would you say is like helpful for somebody who might be struggling?
Yeah, I think having the ability to endure failure and just keep going, just pick yourself back up and learn from your mistakes and failure. I mean, going through the crypto market since 2017, like I had so many like false starts where like my crypto like went up so much. Like I started with like I think $5,000, and Bitcoin was about like $1,000 back in 2017 when I started investing, and then my portfolio just took off to like maybe 100,000 or 120,000, and then because I didn't know how to time the crypto market and its volatility, and I just held on, and then everything crashed in the bear market, and my cryptos went down to like something much smaller, like 30,000 ish, and then I panic sold a lot of my coins at the bottom, but I still had more than what I started, but it was so depressing because I thought my portfolio was going to be much higher, and it felt like so miserable at the time. But looking back, like it was a great experience because I learned how to endure like something that is so difficult, and then actually pick myself up again, and then still believe in crypto, but learn from my mistakes, and the second time around, I still made similar mistakes, but like not the same mistakes, but like I did better. But then I still held on as the market crashed because I just didn't know how to read the signs of the market. And by the way, I'm a trader, like, which means that I buy and sell based on the market conditions. So a lot of people won't resonate with that strategy. A lot of people will just keep investing and hold for many years. So, and that's a valid strategy if you're holding a valuable asset like Bitcoin that's going to keep going up. So I'm talking specifically about like traders who, and by the way, it's like very stressful because I have to look at the market every single day. And for some people, they don't want to deal with that kind of stress. So it's better to be investor. But just through the years of like being so passionate about like trading and just like coming back, even when crypto went down, like just believing the technology, and then it proved itself to like be a legit technology as it keeps going up, and then you see also the technology improving over time, and also, by the way, like you want to follow some good YouTube influencers or whatever social media you use. Like you can find good YouTube videos that actually give you up-to-date news about crypto. But you also got to be careful because like there's also a lot of YouTube videos that don't provide good information. So you kind of have to see what YouTube videos or channels actually provide good information. The only way you can do that is probably follow, like over time, see what actually pans out in terms of like what is good advice given to you by these YouTubers, things like that. So, but having grit and belief in the technology definitely have helped me stay in cryptos and getting over the fear as well of the downside and the risks. Like managing your risk properly is like so essential because like you only want to put as much money as you can lose, that you're willing to lose in the market, and over time that amount can grow to a much bigger amount. Then you can reinvest in the market and grow into something that can change your life. So not sure if I explained it
it's interesting. I'm coming, like, my mind is thinking back to what you said about how you see everything as like a spiritual experience, or you see the spirituality in like everything you do. And I think that's a good example how like just staying, like you said, having grit and staying hopeful and kind of in a positive mindset about it, and following people who know what they're talking about. And I think those are all ways to stay in like a very positive mindset, which I think is really going to set you up for success in the future, which is what I talk a lot about on my channel. So thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us. That was a lot. You've covered a lot of topics here. And one question that I just thought of on the fly, aside from all of the crypto, AI, spirituality stuff we talked about, what raises your vibration?
See, probably eating a good diet, like just mostly natural foods.
I do have to say, when I got here, Jason was he was juicing wild blueberries, which I am a fan of because I know they're so healthy for you and nutrient dense. So I've been sipping some wild blueberry juice throughout this video. I don't know if my mouth is purple, hopefully not.
No, it's not.
I'm so grateful that you gave me this. I love it. It's
full of antioxidants, and it's like cold pressed, freshly squeezed blueberry juice. Yeah, wild blueberry.
Great.
So
diet.
Yeah. Exercise, like that's something I've really fallen off track because I've been so busy, but I really want to get back to like exercise, cardio, and also weightlifting. That's super helpful for emotional and physical health, right? And definitely daily meditation to increase spiritual awareness through meditation, like mindfulness, and like kind of Zen philosophy. I'm really into Zen philosophy of like being able to be unattached to your desires. Like you can have desire of becoming wealthy and millionaire and all these other desires that you might have, but like to be unattached to these desires, to go for what you wanted. But if things don't pan out the way you wanted in the short term, like you can still feel centered and grounded, and to believe that it's possible in the future to create that future that you want, and just constantly being focused on that, and also being able to process certain emotions, also because like sadness, and even anger and fear, they're all valid part of human experience. And a lot of times, like, I find people try to suppress that because they're trying to get to a higher vibration, whereas I find it a lot better to be able to process these emotions by feeling these emotions fully, but not directing these emotions. Like if I directed anger at someone outside of me, that's not healthy for the most part. But if I'm able to acknowledge my anger, it's just like, yeah, I feel angry right now, but I'm processing this, and maybe journaling or meditation, so many like tools like EFT, emotional freedom technique. There's probably many things that I name. I haven't named that can be helpful in processing emotions, but yeah, there's so many possibilities. But like definitely we want to process these emotions and let them go so that we can reach a higher vibration of love and joy, and constantly being guided by the principle of love, right? Like my goal is to really infuse the intention of being guided by love in all of my words and action.
I love that.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's a really good principle to be led by. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's so powerful, and I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you again for sharing all of your wisdom with us. I loved that conversation, and I guess for anyone watching, I don't know if you like share your social media or anything. Is there anywhere you would want people to like follow you or anything like that, or any handles you want to share?
Currently, I'm not ready to share my social media yet, but I will be creating, probably Twitter or YouTube channels, and maybe Instagram, where I can share that with the public. And I'm probably going to be posting about crypto and AI and spirituality, topics related to that. And maybe, in the future we can have another interview.
Do part 2.
Yeah, maybe there's part 10, 100 in the future. I don't know. But hopefully we continue this conversation, and you put it out there, and then I'll definitely share that maybe in the next interview.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm looking forward to seeing the content you put out there. And for anyone watching, thanks for watching. If you have any questions for Jason or any thoughts you want to share in the comments below, let us know. I would love to hear it. And we will see you in the next video. Bye.